Content, well, hopefully, of course, that will always keep improving, but don't be afraid. Just here to, switch it up a bit as the years are going on. I remember when the show started, I don't think, Keaton, that I thought that it would have been able to continue for so long in those first few days. So here we are, more or less about year 2 with a new look, and let's dive into the stories of the day.
Certainly. Well, the first story that we're starting with, ladies and gentlemen, is, of course, the state's failure to present its findings in court with respect to the Vindra Naipaul Coolman case. So Acting Attorney General Stuart Young, he has ordered an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the state's failure to file a defense in a civil action of a malicious prosecution case. The 9 men who were held for about 9 years, actually, they will receive a little over $2 million for malicious prosecution. Stuart Young has expressed concern, and therefore he's ordered an investigation. He will actually hold a press conference sometime today. That time has yet to be released. But the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, well, he himself has expressed concern and is querying as to exactly why the state failed to act, even though they filed a defense. They filed the defense, but they failed to act on it.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, right? On top of everything else, with all of the criticisms about the judiciary, the justice system, what is that supposed to even mean? I understand that that is the scenario, that is the factual scenario. But now to the general public, I am just wondering who was in that position to think, well, we'll just not follow through with it? How does that even work? And to some extent, why is there not a proper paper trail to clearly outline, what is going on with a case as high profile and as big as this? Because we're not talking about 2 guys got caught because they had, 2 large bags of marijuana on them. This was a very serious murder trial that involved a large number of defendants who, were kept in custody for a significant amount of time. And, I mean, that case itself also makes us, depending on their claims, the questions about the conditions of the prisons, and that's a whole other separate debate. So this is not the kind of case where you could just, wing it and kind of do whatever you feel like. So there's a part of me that wonders, the fact that the current acting AG has to order an investigation. And I don't know if he might know some details and doesn't necessarily want to release it to the press. Maybe he wants confirmation just to make sure that everything is correct before he says anything. But
well, Reginald Amor, the Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, he is out of the country on unexpected business, but was due to return yesterday evening. Interestingly, as far as we're aware, he's not the one that will be addressing the public at this press conference. It will be Stuart Young.
He's supposed to have been back in the country by yesterday.
By yesterday.
I'll just say that his travel timing seems to be bad. It's only been about twice, I think, that this has happened. But one could argue maybe twice is, 2 times too many.
I don't think it's bad. I think it's just rather coincidental.
But for the indemnity situation, he was here, though, I think.
I think he was out for some time and then...
right. So that was also when Minister Young also had to act at the start of that.
Although Reginald Amor did speak to the nation via press conference.
Yes.
So, but as we move on, ladies and gentlemen, with the daily recap, so former Police Commissioner Gary Griffith, well, he has issued his support for Erla Airwood Christopher to be the next permanent Commissioner of Police, and he's asked in the public to show her support as well. I believe we have a clip from Mr. Gary Griffith that we can take a look at now.
As I stated to the public when I reapplied for the post of Commissioner of Police, I did this knowing fully well that this new process would be manipulated to ensure a result that one man and one man alone wanted. And he did so regardless of whether it affected the safety and security of citizens, especially at a time when our country has never experienced such bloodshed and fear of crime in our history. I reapplied simply to expose the dictatorship that exists in this country because of a flawed, easily manipulated constitution with one man handpicking a president who then handpicks what is supposed to be an independent body, such as the Police Service Commission. This is why Erla Christopher's role is even more pivotal to our collective future. So I want to encourage the soon-to-be appointed commissioner to resist being used as a political pawn in anyone's games, and to remember her oath in office is to be in service of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and not to be politically manipulated or controlled, even if it costs her the post of commissioner. She should also look to the men and women of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, as resident within the rank and file are some of Trinidad and Tobago's finest. Whilst being cognizant that the process is obviously flawed, we as a nation must now move forward and fully support the soon-to-be appointed Commissioner of Police.
Well, that's rather interesting. I was not expecting that at all from the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. In fact, I was actually expecting him to speak more so as to how he was in the past and how he believes that the system is flawed. Even though he mentioned it, I was not expecting him to publicly support earlier with Christopher.
Yes, that's interesting. And the fact that he's supporting her, to me, as much as I have questions about her, because he's a different outsider candidate, not because Gary Griffith is so great. Now I'm thinking, okay, I need to just maybe reassess a little bit, because obviously he's not going to support just automatically who the government may or may not want to support. We don't know if the government supports her. But the video was really, I think, more about his political stance than his support of Ayla Christopher. The video is about twice as long as what you saw there, and the rest of it mainly was more rhetoric with regards to the current state of, or the current situation, and his political aspirations moving forward. It almost made it seem as though he was trying to say, well, now that I know that I might not be commissioner, I could now go back to the political direction in full force. And to what extent is he just, playing the game, and to what extent is it genuine? It's
Well, I mean, I'm quoting now from Mr. Gary Griffith from that 3 minutes and 21 second video. He says, Christopher's role is more pivotal in our collective future. I want to encourage the soon-to-be commissioner to resist being used as a political pawn in anyone's game, and to remember her oath in office is to be of service to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and not to be politically motivated or controlled, even if it costs you the post of commissioner. So he is signaling his end, but he can't resist speaking about what transpired 2 years ago.
I think that phrase, political pawn, I won't be surprised if he's interacted with members of the cabinet, and he might have had interactions where it seemed as though they were trying to make use of him. And to some extent, they probably were. Just how blatant and direct it was, and how indirect it was, we don't know the nature. But when he says one man and one man alone, now I'm wondering if with his interactions, does he have, is it a perception, and is there more to that of what he's saying with regards to the inner workings, what he observed, or is this just political rhetoric? He's just saying, well, the Prime Minister is a dictator, and this is the problem. Well,
he's referred to it as a dictatorial, democratic nation. So a lot more there to go with the former Commissioner of Police, but he's focusing now on the National Transformation Alliance. That is his goal, and he's stating that when the NTA is in government, you can be assured of a major reduction in crime here in TNT.
When?
Who knows? But, I mean, can't you blame him?
He's confident.
Yeah, exactly, and could you blame him? But it makes me wonder, to what extent was he a political pawn when he was the Commissioner of Police? Because following that entire fiasco and the collapse of the Bliss-Prasad Police Commission, he's actually, you remember he stated, the Prime Minister asked him to get an explosive license for one of the Prime Minister's friends. Fitzgerald Hines has asked him to get FULs for one of his friends. So, of course, there's no evidence to say it. It's just coming from Gary Griffith's
All I know is for the public health regulations, he was not manipulated to do what the government wanted. And that's the one thing that I liked about, well, that's the one thing I could say off the top of my head that I liked about his time as Commissioner.
Certainly. Well, as we continue this morning with just a daily recap of the latest here in TNT, Sean and I, over the course of the last year, we've been speaking a lot about the fact that schools are in a state of disrepair across the nation. In fact, some of them are uninhabitable. St. George's College in Barataria has to be moved to the UTT Valsin campus, for example. A student was actually injured when a concrete block from one of the schools fell on top of their head. So many stories coming out of there, some of which have gone silent. But we're now hearing from the Minister of Education, Dr. Nian Gaspioli. She says a total of 106 schools will benefit from the ministry's remediation program, for the academic year 2022-2023. She stated this at a press conference that was held on Monday afternoon, saying that Cabinet approved a range of operational recommendations in its revised operational plan for 26 secondary schools in July 2022, and Cabinet approved the implementation of a remediation program in December of 2022 for 80 primary schools.
So here's the thing, Cabinet approved. That just signals to me I'm not necessarily liking it, and we need to now always remember that the minister is not presenting her plan, it's Cabinet's plan. The second thing is, just based off of what I've read in the reports, I'm not really seeing anything that, it just seems like we're going to add more of what we already do, because there are counselors working for the Ministry of Education already working in schools, right? I'm not too sure with regards to the AT Learning Support Assistants, exactly what that role is and if they have people in that position already. But Learning Support Assistants implies, well, some sort of aid with regards to teaching. So it's more teaching, it's more counselors. We have these already, we're just adding more. That might help, to be fair, more resources, but it doesn't seem like anything new, any sort of shift or change. And the union has more or less come out in support of this, but I do wonder, well, of course they're going to be in support of it because, you know, with the after-school lessons plan and summer school plans and all of these things, it's like, well, maybe some of their members could just duck more of their responsibility because they're going to get this extra support. So I don't know if we're going to, I mean, that's just my cynical speculation. But this is just, I'm not seeing anything revolutionary enough to where I think the problems, they are a lot more complicated than that.
I also don't think it's a cabinet plan. I think it's a ministry's plan, the Ministry of Education plan, but it's approved by cabinet.
I'm pretty sure, or I highly suspect cabinet would have tweaked things to their, you know, whether it's for budgetary reasons or whatever.
Which is absolutely fine. I mean, I think that's the whole point of the cabinet being there as well. So I look forward to this, actually. I welcome it, and I really hope that it's actually implemented. And a press conference wasn't just held to say, okay, you know, we're communicating with the public.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? Will it be implemented?
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that, actually. 2023, actually, the academic year ends around July. So that is something that we will have to keep an eye on as it progresses throughout the year. Our final story this morning is, it actually ties back into a question that our colleague, former colleague VM Prime, Andy Johnson, and current colleague for 10 Questions, I always remember asking this question to the minister with respect to, could you tell us the exercise with respect to COVID-19 payouts, what it means for the state of vulnerability in Trinidad and Tobago? Following that, we've reopened, the businesses are trying to start up after many of them shut down permanently. But First Citizens Bank recorded $18.9 billion in total loans last year, and this is according to the Group Chief Executive Officer, Karen Darby. She's stating that during the report for the annual stock exchange, their loan portfolio grew by $804 million, or 4.4%, to $18.9 billion.
I mean, for the stockholders, that sounds great. You know, for the people, stakeholders on that level, that sounds great. For the economists and for the average citizen, I guess the question is exactly what is the breakdown of these loans and the interest rates, and the details matter, because who are getting these loans, you know, how many of the loans potentially could go into default, all of these things. So some of it we might not really fully know how it turns out until, you know, we actually get a couple of years down the line and see how it goes. If it's a good or bad thing.
Interesting. I think it's both a good and a bad thing. I mean, from the look of it, people are thinking, oh my God, people have to borrow money in order to restart, which is normal. I think
for something like this, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just personal loans. It will be corporate loans as well.
Yeah,
that will be including this. But the mere fact that we still have that ability to borrow, because in order to borrow money, you have to have assets, and I think the mere fact that people are still in that area, we don't know the breakdown.
But we also don't know the terms and conditions of the loans, how much collateral, etc., and to what extent they may or may not have fleeced some of the customers. I mean, we don't know.
We don't know. We're just going based off of the reports, and this was the report to the stock, the holders, shareholders. And finally, we just have to mention this very quickly because we got this news this morning. And this is a statement from the Office of the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Dr. The Honourable Keith Rowley's schedule began before dawn yesterday and included a visit to Point Lisas. He worked throughout the day attending to several matters of the state. The Prime Minister also visited several panyards yesterday evening. During the day, he did not have any meals and by 1:30 began feeling faint and had to be assisted to his vehicle while awaiting the performance for the judges at the Oval. The Prime Minister has since recovered and will chair the National Security Council meeting this morning at 10 a.m. Dr. Rowley would like to thank everyone who expressed concern and support. And this is in relation to his health. He had unfortunately, he felt faint yesterday. I've been told that he actually did faint and he had to be assisted to his car. So there have always been concerns about his health. This has happened, but
you know, a healthy man at his age not eating
anybody,
with his schedule.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Right, but you don't have to be sick for that to happen to you. So what can I say?
Thank God he's
kudos
okay.
for working so hard, but please don't do it again. I don't think it's worth it, especially since if this is your last term, working hard or not working hard. I understand, yes, the cynics will say he's not really working, but you're coming down to the end of your career. You literally don't have to kill yourself over some of these things. If it was still if it was the start of the pandemic, fine, or something like that, some emergency like that. But you know,
we can't say that.
Well, true.
Sean, if he's attending to matters of the state, thank you, Prime Minister. Continue the hard work. Look after yourself as well. I'm glad you're okay, and I wish you the best.
Keita, if attending to matters of the states cause our Prime Minister, whoever it is, to collapse, I think that, you know, that and all needs to be rethought out.
And that is not what caused him to collapse. He gave the explanation that he had not eaten, and therefore, I'm just saying, make time for yourself as well.
We know people in the office who don't eat because they're too busy.
But at the same time, we're not always out in the sun, are we? We're still in an air-conditioned room. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break here on Talking Point, and when we return, well, we welcome our commentator for this brand new edition of Talking Point.
Make sure you get tickets early, got them tickets selling already. We have icons, yes, we have legends, and the young upcoming sensations. Pekong party, social commentary, we have something for everybody. Pressure for them, joker, faker, and lows. Come to Kaiso House. Keep them.
Kaiso House in the Barricade, Queen's Park, Savannah, January 27th to February 17th, 2023. Tickets available at
Kaiso House in the Savannah, Crosby's Music Center, St. James, Kamule Restaurant, San Fernando, Bursa Complex, Grand Bazaar, and Tuco Main Office, Jerningham Avenue, Belmont. Meet me in the Barricade.
On Friday, February 3rd, at the Central Bank Auditorium, it's Light Up the Night, Volume 3, a veteran Calypso showpiece. Come, enjoy a night of stars to light up your night with Tobago Crusoe, D. Alberto, Chalk Dust, Ray Holman, Leston Paul, Short Pants, The Bagman, and Alexander the Great. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. at the Central Bank Auditorium. Tickets cost $250. Get your tickets now at Crosby St. James. Mesa Limited at 628-5092 or 628-5094. And at the Central Bank box office on February 2nd only. Call for reservations at 621-2288, extension 6345. Don't miss this veteran Calypso showpiece, Light Up the Night, Volume 3, Friday, February 3rd.
QRC Fête Royale. We home!
On Saturday, 4th February, from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m.
We present our honorary Royalians. Voice and the top 5 band.
Cass the Band,
Patrice Roberts.
Ricardo True and the 18 Band,
Nadia Batson.
and Rafi B.
First edition tickets on sale now at the QRC box office.
Bagalito Enterprises
Online tickets available at ticketfederation.com.
and Suntix.com.
It's a fantastic February at Massage Haven as we celebrate Valentine's Carnival and our 1-year anniversary. For the entire month of February, take advantage of our special packages. For Valentine's, show your love with our Lovebirds and I Just Adore You packages. Carnival, let's help you glow with 20% off on all sauna and massage combos. And as we turn 1 year old, special complimentary Massage Haven tokens of gratitude and keepsakes within our anniversary week. Massage Haven, 157B, Monroe Road, Canoopia.
Fan Zone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, this is Talking Point, so don't doubt what you see on the screen. We have a new look, but we still have with us one of the people that started this show, and of course, I am speaking about former Minister of Finance, attorney at law, legal scholar, and author, Mrs. Karen Nessishera. Good morning, Karen, and welcome to the new Talking Point.
Yes, good morning to you, Sean and Keaton. And I guess we all have to get used to the new format, but I'm sure it's going to work out as intended, and always improvements. And not to say you didn't have a very good show before, in my opinion and that of others, but we always can do, look at other ways of doing things too.
Good morning, Karen, and it's good to see you. Karen, actually, I think we spoke briefly on the phone yesterday, and Sean and I started the program by mentioning that the acting minister, well, I believe that upon the return of Reginald Moore yesterday, he's no longer acting, but Stuart Young, who filled that role upon Reginald Moore's departure for unexpected business, has initiated an investigation over the state's failure to file its defense in the 9 men who were maliciously prosecuted and awarded just over $2 million each in the Vindra Naipal Coolman kidnapping and murder trial. The former acting Attorney General and the current Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, he's due to hold a press conference later today. The Prime Minister has also issued a statement saying that he too is very concerned and is inquiring as to why the state failed to file its defense. Karen?
I think in this case, good morning to everyone again. I think in this case, he has good reason to be very concerned. And I just will go for the purposes of the viewers also, just go, and also in my own understanding of why it has become such a critical issue. And it really does. I mean, oftentimes the opposition takes positions and it's as if they're posing for opposing's sake. But in this case, certainly when it comes to Faris Al-Rawi, who I think would have been the Attorney General doing all what would have the major part of this imbroglio, this transgression, to put it mildly, I think there is good reason to believe, my goodness, should he be there? So why would I say that? So we all know about Vindra Naipal Coolman. She was, I think, of one of the largest supermarkets in Trinidad, chief executive officer, some position like that. In any event, a senior person. And in 2006, she was kidnapped. A ransom of $3 million was asked for her release. But at the end of the day, it was 12 men who were charged with not only her kidnapping, but with also murder, although her body was not recovered. That happened in 2006. So they were held in custody and charged with the murder and kidnapping, as I said, 12 of them. And between 2014 and 2016, the trial of the 12 men, a trial which was the judge in that case was Malcolm Holdit. Mm-hmm. And as is in criminal matters, this is a criminal case, it was the guilt or innocence determined by a jury of his peers, a 12-man jury. At the end of the trial, the court determined the jurors who had to determine guilt or innocence acquitted. So there's no question of sentencing here. Of 9 of them acquitted, and 8 of them completely One, they said there was a no-case submission they upheld, so that was a complete acquittal. So that's 9 of the 12. 2, however, being ordered to stand retrial, so they are to be retried for the murder and kidnapping. And one of them, who escaped police custody, died or was murdered, whatever, was killed. So at the end of the day, of the 12, we're talking about 9 of them. Of the 9 of them, they now move from the criminal arena, where they don't have a say in that. You see, the state decides, and the person under the Constitution is the DPP, to bring criminal proceedings on behalf of the state, and they were the accused in that case. And that had been completed, so now that's over. So there was an option, which they took up on the very last day, and their lawyer, main lawyer, I believe, is Anna and Ram Logan,
yes,
which was to bring civil proceedings now. It's no longer in the criminal court, we're now in the civil court. And they brought an action for damages, which is monetary compensation for malicious prosecution. So they're saying they were maliciously prosecuted and that they're claiming compensation for that. And they did that on the very last day. There was 4 years within which they could do that. Remember, they were acquitted in 2016, and under our rules of statutory limitation, rules of limitation for bringing a matter, apparently it was the last day of the 4 years that they brought this action. When they filed the action, and now you're dealing no longer with the DPP, but you're dealing with the Attorney General, who under the Constitution is the titular head of the legal profession. And certainly in a matter in which the state is the one that is being sued, it is his, the Attorney General's office, Solicitor Generals, Chief State Solicitor, all those organs that make up the Attorney General's office are now responsible now for defending, because they applied and brought an action for malicious prosecution, as I said. So the state, according to what my research showed, did enter an appearance, which is one of the things you have to do if you want to defend an action. Having done that, though, statement of case entered against them, the next step was left now for the state now to put in a defense, to defend against the claim. And for reasons that have not been explained, and which is why I've been having this press conference, and nobody seems to be the wiser on it, having entered the appearance, they failed to defend. Now, when you fail to defend, you have a certain period of time within which to do it. It's in the rules that govern civil procedure matters. You can also get an extension, and it can be agreed between the parties. But once that extension has not been agreed to, and so on, then the party who brought the matter in the first place, which would be the former 9 accused who are no longer accused, they are now claimants because they fought in the civil courts and they have been acquitted. So they are now claimants in a civil matter. So the claimants, the 9 claimants now, having no defense being filed by the state, and the Attorney General's department, which is the party to file the defense, they applied for judgment in default of defense. That's what they did. And they did that in 2021. They did that in 2021. And the judge at the time, Justice Joan Charles, made an order in their favor and ordered judgment in default of defense. And it's because the Attorney General's department failed to put in a defense to the claim of the claimants. And the matter was sent for assessment. A lot of times when a matter is determined by a judge might determine liability and say, yes, it's not that you'll be giving you judgment in default of defense because the defendants, which would have been the state, have failed to defend the claim that is made against them. And so what the judge did, she sent it for assessment to the master of the court, one of the masters, and that master was Martha Alexander. So masters are judicial officers. They have a lot of the powers of a high court judge. Not all, many of them, and one of the main functions they have is assessing damages, which is what was sent in 2022, I believe. The matter for assessment by Master Martha Alexander was sent to her to be assessed. And she assessed it. And even at that stage, and this is one of the other issues that came up, you failed to file a defense. When it reached the assessment of damages, the other question now arises, which the opposition leader did raise. You failed to file a defense and given no reason why you failed to do it. even though you entered an appearance. So you knew about the matter. Well, you should have known about the matter because you would have been served with the documents. You entered an appearance, which means you knew to do something next, and you failed to do it. And then having gone through all that, now we've reached assessment stage. Why you are going to try to try to get the damages awarded to be as low as possible? Because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayers, we the taxpayers, who are going to have to pay for it because it's the state having to pay. So that was the second statement that the opposition leader said. But why, even at the assessment stage, why didn't you try to get the assessment stage to have the damages awarded lowered? There's no effort apparently on your part. And as a consequence, I did note that in July 2022, I think Anand Ramlugan and his team, in trying to get as much for his client as possible, wanted certain documents to be released to his team. And the court of Justice Rhymes said, you can't get those. I won't go into that. What he said, you have the witness statements, pay for it to the court, get it. We can't give you some of the documents. But the bottom line is this. At the end of the day, the master awarded, and this is supposed to be the highest award of its kind in an action for default or defense for malicious prosecution in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, over 20 million. So the 20 million, 2 million, 2.1 million per person, I believe, per claimant. And in that, a compensation is not just compensation for the 9 years they spent in awaiting trial. The conditions under which they were kept, which were set out in great detail by the master, but the parading of them every day. This is what she said: the handcuffing in front of everyone, so that it not only affected their opportunity for a livelihood, their reputational damage, and the conditions under which they were kept. So at the end of the day, she awarded them exemplary damages. And you don't get exemplary damages is the court's way of saying, look, it was so bad, we are going to send a message that we're not just going to give them compensation, we're going to go beyond that. But they awarded each of them, I think, 2.1 million, which comes about 20 million in all. So at this point in time, the onus falls on the state to explain two things. Why didn't you enter judgment? Why didn't you defend the application for the claim of malicious prosecution? Why didn't you put in a defense? That's the first thing. I don't know what they did not, clearly. And secondly, having not done that, and it's gone before the master to assess the quantum, the amount of compensation to be paid to each of these claimants, why didn't you defend it or put forward arguments to at least try to reduce the damages that be awarded? Whether it would have been successful is another thing, but why didn't you do it? Why was it not done? And so that is the two major issues that, and more of it, and the reason why she said it's the both AGs, meaning the Faris Al-Rawi and Reginald Amor, because when in the judgment, which is the far, in my opinion, I think most people, more egregious wrongdoing, he was the Attorney General, and it comes back to the Nelson Gate. He said that, I was following advice. Well, I don't know what you're going to say now, but what is he going to say? What is the excuse? So he is the one that we talk about the judgment in default. And when it comes to the assessment of damages, I think Reginald Amor would have then, at some point in time, have become the Attorney General during that period. So why didn't he or his department try to reduce the amount of exemplary damages to be awarded to these 9 persons then in which the state now is having, and we the taxpayers are paying all this money. So that is why the two attorneys, the former and the current, but the former one, my God, I don't know what they could say. I don't know what he could say. I don't know what he could say. I am not going to stand in judgment at this time because I don't have all the information, but my goodness, he can't blame anybody,
Yeah.
He can't do that. I hope you're not going to blame game here. I just don't know what he can say that can save him here.
Karen, exactly. I think we are accustomed to the government, a lot of our problems are long-term, to be fair. So you could put blame on the past administration, the administration before that, etc., etc. But this situation is so, well, it's more or less recent. The current administration has been here for 7 years. I am kind of surprised that the direction that they're attempting to go on, and I'm very much surprised. Not that it happened, but just how it happened and now what they're trying to do about it. I, like you, I'm somewhat confused. But
I'm so sorry. I know we have to go to break, but I'm not surprised. This always happens in the sense that you would expect them to do their job and get these things done because it is taxpayers' dollars. But at the end of the day, this has happened before, not a similar case, but the fact that the state has failed to act, and then a press conference is held, and then we're ordering an investigation.
No, but usually with the indemnity case, that was to some extent tied to the administration before. This is more or less, you can't push back, as Karen was saying. You can't push the blame onto anybody else. Maybe...
Can I just say before we go on the break, because when we come back, I think it's important to explain to your listening audience what we mean by malicious prosecution, why it's so egregious that nothing was done. And it is the default judgment, the application for malicious prosecution was made in 2020. This government has been in office since 2015. There's nobody else to blame. Nobody else to blame but this government.
Folks, we have to take a break. When we come back, of course, we'll get more into this topic because, this is one of those quagmires that I would like to see more details and explanation from the government. Maybe we'll get more in the press conference, but we'll be talking about it after this.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered.
The conversation continues. Join me, Kemuel Pascal, as the voice of the youth comes to life. We will confront the controversial topics of today's world to gain answers that are key for a better tomorrow. One and One with me, Kemuel Pascal. Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Only on WESN Content Capital.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Sing for your lover, baby, sing for your lover.
But that is not the song.
That is my version for the Valentine's Day promo on WESN.
WESN presents its Valentine's Day promotion, Sing for Your Lover.
Send us a video of the best rendition of your favorite love song for the one you love. All contestants have a chance to win a variety of exciting prizes. Send us your entries to thecontentcapital@gmail.com. All videos will be posted to our social media pages and will be shown on WESN.
Well, okay then. Let me sing for my lover. Let me sing for my lover.
My lover.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WSN Content Capital. Karen Yunus-Sushara is with us this morning as we analyze the state's failure to file a defense against the malicious prosecution of men held in the case of the Vindra Naipal Coolman kidnapping and murder. Karen, I do have one question for you as it relates to what you would have previously stated, but First, we're sorry I had to cut for break, but just if you could continue with your explanation of what malicious prosecution is.
Yes, now the malicious prosecution claim was made by the 9 accused who now became claimants because they're now in the civil courts, and the defendant would be the Attorney General. So it's now a different ballgame. So they are making a claim saying, you maliciously prosecuted me. And one of the things I just want to think, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I don't practice for the criminal bar at all, so I'm not pretending to do that. But one of the things when you're looking at an indictable offense, which is an offense like murder, the police are the ones that go gathering the evidence and then they're bringing it to the DPP. And the Director of Public Prosecution, who's completely insulated under the Constitution from any political interference, it says so, he then makes a determination, is he satisfied based on the evidence that the police have provided him that he has sufficient ground for charging? Because criminal matters are creatures of statute. So he has to make sure that the elements that would constitute the charge, what kidnapping, what murder, that those elements he is able to prove it in a court of law, and therefore it depends very much on what the police bring to him. So the issue then, I think, may be that this press conference is an effort, a deflection, to put the blame on the police and to put the blame, as they did, to put the blame on somebody else. Right? So let's look and see what malicious prosecution really is. But the fact of the matter is, they did bring the claim, and even if, as the court, even if they were wrongly accused because they were acquitted, even if, it does not necessarily mean that you could succeed in making a claim of malicious prosecution. So the elements which the claimants, those former 9 accused, are now 9 claimants, would have to satisfy the court with is, one, that the prosecution by the defendant, which would have been the state, DPP, in respect of a criminal charge before a tribunal competent to inquire into the proceedings. So first thing you have to determine is a criminal matter. The matter was heard before a court that had the competency to do so. That's one requirement. So you have to satisfy that. That's the claimants. That's the 9 former accused. Secondly, critically, that the proceedings, which in this case was the murder and kidnapping proceedings, terminated in your favor. They were acquitted. So therefore, that's the basis that you prosecuted me maliciously. That's second requirement. The third requirement, and fourth, which are the critical ones, is the absence of any reasonable and probable cause for instituting the proceedings. So you don't have to have an actual belief that these people are guilty. You have to have an honest belief. You have to have a reasonable belief. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is that, yes, and as a result of that lack of honest belief, lack of reasonable belief, I have suffered damages. Well, we know they did. We got all the gory details from the judgment of the master of what they went through. So what is key, and for your listeners to understand, it doesn't mean just because you are acquitted that you could run tomorrow morning and say, I'm going to make a claim because you're looking for money. It means that at the end of the day, even if the police got it wrong, even if they are acquitted, the key is when they instituted those criminal proceedings against those 12 men, was it reasonable for them to have done so? So the case law, which there's many cases on it, I would just say, so the most important elements in establishing malicious prosecution, which is what the 9 claimants, former acquitted, now accused, are going to have to really satisfy, is the reasonableness of the police and therefore the DPP's action. Whether the claimants establish an absence of a reasonable and probable cause for the arrest. And what is the most important thing is you have to show the absence of spite, the absence of ill will, the absence of improper motive, absence of a lack of honest belief. And then the case saw so many cases, but really what it says, if you want to understand when you say reasonable belief, they say, if you ask a reasonably prudent man, given the same circumstances that the police were faced with, would they have come to the conclusion that these persons were guilty of what they were charged? And if your answer is, well, if I knew those facts that the police knew, assuming the police did not manufacture facts, did not, whatever were the facts, assume now that all of it is about, you look at it, you say, well, if I were in the police position, I would say they were guilty. So then the court would say, well, it was reasonable. And once it's reasonable, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. So what is required, the remedy was a malicious prosecution. So the prosecution of the 12 accused had to be motivated by ill will, spite, bad mind, if you want to use those words. So when you bring the action and saying, I am, now that I've been acquitted, that's what's required, I want to be compensated for what I went through. But I have to be able to satisfy a court that you're instituting those proceedings against me was motivated by ill will, spite, malice, and you have no reasonable grounds for believing anything. Now, if the court says it's reasonable, if they're on those same facts that I would have charged you, then you will not succeed. But you don't even know, because guess what? The state didn't put in any defense.
Exactly.
That's what I just said. They didn't do it, did they?
And so the lead prosecutor in the case, Israel Khan, here has been reported to have said that the case was reasonable. So, of course, now the implication is that, yes, the case started outside of the current administration, but we don't have an explanation. Yes, if the case was potentially reasonable, why was no attempt made? Because, Karen, I don't know if you remember, but back when the purchasing of cars by government ministers became a little bit of a controversy, I think sometime, I can't remember if it was last year or the year before, the Prime Minister made great claims, Keaton and Karen, to point out, well, we have gone to court and we have reduced settlements or got back money that would have had to be paid out in contracts from the previous administration. Look at what we did to save the people of TNT money. So while it's not necessarily the same exact thing, to some extent he said it, I think, a couple of times every now and then, reminding people we have saved the people money, we've prevented having to pay out all of these various different things. This is a big case with 9 defendants. Even if, they get the usual payout, it's still not going to be a small amount.
Yeah, but and the key here, I don't want people to lose this, because you did say it at the beginning. You have to show the prosecution was unreasonable and right. So if Israel Khan, who I have respect for as a senior counsel and criminal bar, said that there were reasonable grounds to charge these men. So if he's right, even more egregious it is that the state, when the matter finally was heard, because this matter wasn't heard, it was heard between 2014 and 2016. They were acquitted in 2016. So this was under this government. It is even more, and they filed the application for damages for malicious prosecution in the last day they could have, which was in May in 2020. If there was reasonable grounds for charging them, even more inexplainable, if that's a word, that they did not, the state, the Attorney General, put in a defense.
But also,
even more so.
You pointed out there were 2 instances. It's not just the first pass at the defense, but also the second pass at the awarding of damages where the state did not make the assessment. So I want to know, guys, the acting AG said that they're going to investigate. Who are they investigating? Because basically, I'm not too sure if you could spend this to investigate somebody else except the Office of the Attorney General.
I don't know if it's whether or not who they investigate. I don't know exactly what it is they're investigating, because this will be the AG. This moves away from the DPP. It'll be the Office of the AG and all those involved.
Because as Karen said, it's civil, not criminal.
Yes, but I'm curious to know, Karen, the fact remains that the state failed to file a defense or put forward any opposition to the claims made by the former alleged. In that instance,
they're acquitted.
They're acquitted. Exactly. Right, of the acquitted. In that instance, could the state, even though they failed to file a defense or bring forward evidence, could the state still appeal this decision that has been brought by the court?
Right. So, yes, they can. I mean, but boy, that will be an uphill battle. Because what I didn't speak to, there's something called relief from sanctions. And the court, yes, has eased up a bit when since passing, because it's civil procedure dealing. You come out of the criminal courts, you're now in civil. So you're looking at civil procedure rules they're looking at, because malicious prosecution is a civil matter. So when you're filing a defense in a civil matter, they have something called Rule 27.6, I think, relief from sanctions. And what happened, Trinidad is the only country that I know that has that rule. Because a lot of lawyers would, buying time, not keeping to deadlines for filing. The court, they may say you have 14 days to put in a statement of case. And after this thing, 14 days or any extended thing, they just would do whatever they wanted and not whatever they wanted. But the point was that matters would become delayed, and who would suffer? The client. So the court had become far more strict and more about doing things on time. So in this case, I can't see how this is not a one-man office, This is not two people, they can bring in QC from, or KC as they call it now, from England if they want to, They have a whole department of Solicitor General with lawyers upon lawyers upon lawyers that train in civil matters and have done this. Listen, the police have gotten this. When I was working in the state, I worked with the state for about 5 years. In Chief State Solicitor, the number of matters we had to do and settle regarding police officers persons who had been freed and acquitted brought against the state for malicious prosecutions, assault and battery. There's so many. So they're very well versed in these matters. So you are looking at the engine of the state and the power of the state and the financing of the state. The ability of the state to defend, and now to come to ask the court when you didn't ask for an extension of time, which is what you would do. People, many times you're not ready to put in a defense, but you don't just ignore the timeline because the court has become very, very strict about that, and they put it in the rules. They know that more than I do. And so if you wanted that, you should have asked for an extension to file your defense. The fact that Justice Joan Charles, gave the order of judgment in default of defense, whatever arguments were put before her by the lawyers representing the 9 claimants, she had to be satisfied that the state had no arguable answer to that judgment in default. And I'm not even sure, if I do not know, but I'm not even sure if when that matter was called for her to make for the order to be made, whether the state was represented, or whether the state asked for an extension of time at that late stage. It is inexcusable. It's totally inexcusable. So to end on that, the only thing I could say, and I think it is in very poor taste, just in case that's what they're trying to do, to go and put the thing on the police. It's not about the police. It's not about the police anymore, and put it on the DPP and the police anymore. It reached to you, and you could put in a defense, and in your defense, you could have argued that.
Karen.
So no one trying to put in the police at this stage.
Quick question. There have been a lot of cases like these, and every now and then you see it in the press, an award is given. Is it that there's something of an unofficial practice where, because there's so many, some slip through the cracks and they don't necessarily care, and in this case, they were foolish enough to not realize this could end up being a very high-profile case with so many defendants and with such strong claims?
I think most of the cases, no, I wouldn't say so, but I haven't practiced. This is a lot of public. This is the state, and when you're dealing with malicious prosecution, in this case, of course, it's the state, because who could prosecute you? Many persons have the right to prosecute you. It's the DPP, and the DPP is you're dealing with an organ of the state, so to speak, independent and insulated. But that's what you're dealing with. So to answer your question, when it comes, and I have done cases when I was a chief state and I'm dealing with police officers, you might settle, but you suddenly put in a defense. You're not going to put in a defense. You put in a defense, or you try to settle before the matter reaches that stage. But I was practicing before the rules against sanctions, where they play very strict. But even before that, when the state, yes, because a lot of times police officers are probably motivated by the wrong reasons, and also in carrying out their duties, they carry it out. We see what's happening in America, my God. They do it in a way that is breaching a person's constitutional and other rights, and so on. There's no question about that. But the question arises, it appears on the face of it that no effort was made about anything, and that is the mystery here. And a person that's so delinquent in carrying out the duties, that person, whether they're in a new a new position as a new minister, it happened under his role. And I have nothing against Faris Arawi. I taught him at law school, as you know. I nearly teach nearly all of them. I like Faris Arawi as a person. But my God, I don't know what they're going to say. I do not know what they're going to say. And as also Reggie Amor. What is he going to say? I don't know.
In the words of my co-host and colleague, the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs, the gift that just keeps on giving.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. I'm glad you remember that. Yes.
But ladies and gentlemen, well, Karen, I think we're just going to have to pause it there for now.
Right.
Because we do have to take a break. But when we return, we'll open up the phone lines this morning. Stay tuned to Talking Point.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Ministry of Health extends licenses to pharmacists. 7 more succumb to COVID-19. Digital Transformation Minister says consumers free to choose. And internationally, missing radioactive capsule found in Australia. Now for the details. The Ministry of Health has advised that pharmacies can continue to operate. Minister Terence Yalting signed the Pharmacy Board Amendment No. 2 Regulations 2023. These regulations allow for a pharmacy license which was valid and subsisting immediately before February 1st, 2023 to remain in force until a pharmacy license for the period February 1st to January 31st, 2024 is issued by the Council of the Pharmacy Board of Trinidad and Tobago if the fee in respect of the renewal of the pharmacy license was paid. 323 new cases of COVID-19 have been recorded within the last 7 days. 7 persons have also succumbed to the virus. The total number of deaths thus far now stand at 4,326. The rolling 7-day average for positive cases of 46, while for deaths the figure is 1. The total number of patients hospitalized at this time is 45. Minister of Digital Transformation Hassel Barker says consumers are free to weigh their options and what service provider they prefer. He made the statement in response to a question in the Upper House as to whether TAT will take any action on service providers who increases rates regularly.
Fair play deals with competition and open competition in the market. There are 11 providers, which means that the public has choice. If Digicel increases their rates to something that they don't like, and this is from the consumer level, they are free to so move and change to any other provider of their choice. 11 of them exist. So the authority will seek to see if there's anything going on in terms of malfeasance, fair play of the 3 things that were provided, and if none of that exists, it will simply use moral suasion.
In international news now, authorities in Western Australia say they have found a tiny radioactive capsule which went missing last month. Emergency services had literally found the needle in the haystack, they said. A huge search was triggered when the object was lost while being transported along a 1,400-kilometer route across the state. Authorities released a close-up picture of the pea-sized capsule, which could cause serious harm if handled on the ground among tiny pebbles. Well, that was your news to the hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to Talking Point. Thank you very much to Denise Martin for news on the hour, and thank you for staying with us. Karen Nunes joins Sean Michael Small and I in the studio this morning. Folks, so why don't you join us in studio this morning? Our brand new studio, actually. You can call in and join us on the program where you are free to share your opinions, your thoughts, express them. Just please be respectful. Be mindful of the time of your contribution as well as respectful to other callers. Do not call in at the 11th hour, and kindly mute your television whilst you are making your contribution. So, phone lines are open. Call in and join us this morning. Join Karen, Sean, and I.
Yes, and I want to follow what my co-host said. Yes, I understand that this might be very infuriating. A lot of people would be encouraged to use close to colorful language. Please keep the language respectful. We're judging the individual's job performance, which is questionable at best and somewhat disastrous. Well, in the middle. I don't even want to say what's waste because I'll just break what I just said.
I think it's quite ironic that you even use the term performance.
Well, yes, in this case, they didn't do anything. There was nothing done.
Literally didn't perform at all. They didn't do anything. They failed to file a defense. And of course, this blaming game is about to start. It's about to start.
I mean, Karen touched on this. Karen, you did point out as well the conditions of their incarceration. So there's also that, because to me, this is another high-profile case where something went wrong with the prosecution, something went wrong, it took too long, the conditions of the prisons, all of these things add up, and another lawsuit has to pay out. That's a whole other question that I think that should be tied to this situation. But of course, right. That's a different thing. It's a different thing, but we should still keep that in mind with this example, because this is a horrible example of that. But I don't know, as we have time, guys, I mean, could you all think, we try to, at times, look from the other side. Is there just any shred of a potential reason as to why this happened? I'm struggling here because when Stuart Young says they're going to investigate, I'm just like, what are we expected to think is going to happen? Because you're investigating yourself. You're all rara to go after people. You're rara to go after yourself. So what? I know we said it before, but they did not do anything for 2 rounds.
So I'm going to ask this, it reminds me of something that happened previously, asking, why was there a failure? Okay, so do you remember the case with Mr. Baksh, AV oil drilling? Do you remember, let me make this point.
Remembers that case.
Yeah, I'll make this point after this caller from Shogunas. Good morning, caller.
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm glad you have Karen today, because I would like to hear her views on this failure to defend a case in light of the decision we heard sometime last year that government will be taking action against public officials who what you consider malfeasance in public office. They will have to bear the cost of it. Will this fall under that? Yeah, assuming, of course, she's right, which I agree with him, that I can't think of no proper reason why government should not. Because even if they find that is a case, somebody will go to the court and explain to the judge or whatnot, well, for this reason, we withdraw in the case or whatever. Okay, gentlemen, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, I didn't hear one word, huh? All I did is I followed this.
He was asking, it came up last year, that the public servant who was responsible, I guess, for the decision has to be financially responsible.
If you have calls coming in, keep it cold, but just let you know I didn't hear a word.
So he was asking, should the public servant responsible, so I assume in this case, we are assuming it is the former Attorney General, bear the financial responsibility of his lack of action, if the investigation determines all of that to be the case? No?
Who, you're asking me that?
Yeah, well, that's what he's asking.
No, I don't know what the issue was. I can't respond at all.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, I didn't hear. All I saw is body language. I didn't hear one word that was said.
Well, I don't know if you want to comment on it.
You were asking a question just before the caller.
Any shred of potential reason
I
why.
do remember that the advice put forward to Petrotron was appeal the case. You have a solid case against you, Mr. Baksh. Appeal the case.
Well, that was in the public. Was that from their lawyers?
No. What I'm saying is, and then it was made public. You remember afterwards it was made public.
Okay.
The thing for me is that we had an entire conversation and we pointed out the relationship between the Prime Minister and Mr. Baksh, how they're good friends. Right? So, is there a possibility, and we would not know at all, that there is some link or some relationship between those in authority and any of those 9 claimants? Is there? Because that's the only reason why I could see that they still have faith to act.
Yeah, well, I did ask to grasp at straws, say you grasp. I thought you were...
I don't know about that at all.
We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know.
I was thinking... even try to...
I was thinking maybe the state just wanted the case to go away.
I can't speculate.
They wanted the case to go away and they were willing to pay out and maybe they were caught by surprise to how much it would pay out.
That's what it makes one thing. Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason is, that's what they want. They are prepared to do it because it's too obvious. And so this, just as I'm going to say, I'm not a betting person, but I feel when they have this meeting, they're going to put all the blame on the police.
And there is a possibility.
That's the low-hanging fruit. That's the obvious thing.
And I'm glad that you came.
But they cannot.
But that's exactly it.
That's the criminal arena. This is civil. There's a jury. They decide the thing. Don't mix it up. Don't try and mix it up and confuse the public. And as you said with AV Bash, I read the arbitration order, and my God.
Well, I thought the news article did a good job here because they got the prosecutor's opinion on the matter immediately. So, Karen, if you're right, and that's potentially where the government wants to go, is already in the public space. That's been headed off at the pass, and I don't know to what extent will the undecided voters and voters of the other side care to listen to what the government has to say, if that is all that they can say or they choose to say.
This is why I'm actually glad.
They're going to listen, because it's the same Attorney General who went and said that I could not have to follow the instructions and prepare a bill without getting cabinet approval, It's the same Attorney General whose children were on a firing range, which he finally had to admit it was his children, right? Is that same Attorney General with the Nelson Gate thing, who did not want to take responsibility? How many things he has to do again? How many more?
I think it's going to be...
And sorry, Reggie Amor, who I also like, and he was just a year ahead of me. But what about him with that thing in Miami, where he told an untruth on thing, and now with the exemplary damages, not even trying to get the assessment lower?
Well, Gary, we have a caller on the line with us from Aruka. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Have a blessed day to you all.
And to you too, sir.
I just have one comment observing all the scenarios that are going on in Trinidad and Tobago right now. I think the courts, the prisons, and other entities have become an ATM for criminality, because other people have been accused, and then they have been let free, and the state, our taxpayers' money, have to pay them. From Aviol to Anna Ram to this little scenario, I think it's totally ridiculous. I understand that we people trying to do something about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And they say crime is
again, I did not hear, but I watched you both doing this.
Oh, yeah. The caller was basically saying that the bad outcomes, it's turning our criminal justice system almost like an ATM. Criminals are arrested, criminals are mistreated, they sue the state, and then they could collect a check at the end of the day.
But we shouldn't refer to these individuals as criminals.
Well, true.
Yeah, not anymore. Because they were acquitted.
They were acquitted.
Well, no. Right, I wasn't speaking about the 9. I wasn't speaking about the 9. I was speaking about
generally.
Just in general.
Okay.
Just in general. People get arrested, and then 9-10 years later, they end up with a check.
We still carry forth them as criminals.
I said people. This time I said people.
We have a call on the line with us from Faisal. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, lady.
Good morning.
Carol, remind me, please. I think Deborah Peake was it, who would have advised that the state appeal the matter against AV drilling.
Sorry, we seem to have some audio issues with Karen and hearing the call.
Karen, the caller just wants you.
How do you know I'm not hearing the call?
I don't know. I have a sixth sense about these things, Karen. The caller is asking if it was Deborah Peake who was the attorney that made
Yes,
the
she
advice.
was. And by the way, I was in class with her. She came first in law school. She's a person which I can't say about many, many lawyers so open, although you can't put your head on a block for anybody, but a person of the highest, in my view, integrity. She, no question about it. And when you read that arbitration, it is very, very clear this was a case that should have gone to the court because they didn't want it to go to the Privy Council. Because when it went to the Privy Council, which it would have ended up, it would have embarrassed the court and the persons they chose to do the arbitration, and it would be too embarrassing to the country and to the government, to the Prime Minister, because it was clear that every report from international bodies that something was wrong with how much oil they say they were delivering and how much oil that they were recording. International companies were called in.
Cole, are you still with us? All right, okay, we lost that call. No, but thank you very much.
I think that was more, well, I don't know. I think he might have had a follow-up. I don't know if we have time if he calls in.
Yeah, sure, call in. We just have about 11 to 12 more minutes for our phone lines to remain open this morning. But overall, we are not going to find the needle in the haystack this morning. We are not going to find that needle in the haystack this morning with respect to a good reason. There will be some reasons that will be explained later. Alluded to by Karen, whether it be, and this is what I was trying to say earlier, I'm glad that you came this morning and explained that this is no longer a criminal matter, this is a civil matter, so the police are not involved. So if we know that the wonderful Stuart Young comes and speaks to us later, if by chance he does try to shift any blame on the Trans-Tobago Police Service, I appeal to you, the citizenry, be wiser, be smarter. We've got a little bit of education this morning, and that's all I can say.
I think even if he references the entire criminal matter, he's going down the wrong path there. Yeah.
Well, we have a call on the line.
He's going on the right path for him, because it's called the master of deflection, which is good from his Prime Minister.
We have a caller on the line with us. Good morning, caller.
Good morning again, Faizabad.
Yes.
Follow up. Carol, could you advise the nation whether or not that the Malcolm Jones issue and the arbitration, is there any way that we can revive those claims?
All right, caller. Thank you.
Okay, we don't have the time. I looked at the Malcolm Jones matter, and I can look at it again, but I don't want to speak on it without looking at it. But it seemed to me at the end of the day, he was absolutely clear of any malicious negligence on his part. And at the end of the day, at the London arbitration, we, meaning the state, was successful. So the claim against Malcolm Jones was not sustainable at all. That's my recollection.
And the AV drilling, could we return to that as well, or that's gone?
Oh, the AV drilling, my God. What you should do, what I will advise you, it would be a good thing, if you get a copy of the decision of the arbitration, and then see the reasoning, the ridiculous reasoning that they gave for saying that they are not satisfied that the case has been satisfied. When you read that, you know that Deborah Peake was right to say, let's go to court. But they don't want to, because when it goes to the Privy Council, they have no control of the Privy Council. And the Privy Council would tell them like it is, and it will be a great embarrassment to the Prime Minister that he tried to look like a cover-up for his good friend, whose daughter was a senator for a while.
You just said something. They'll have no control of the Privy Council. Now, forgive me. It's
not
that I'm daft. I think if I open my eyes clear enough, I see the reality of what's happening in TNT. But, just to clarify, is there the possibility, or does it exist, that the government or those within authority can manipulate the courts or could manipulate judges?
Unfortunately, I would just want him to be very careful, because I have to be very careful. Many people come to me and say, Karen, you should support the CCG. And I'm a real nationalist and Caribbean person, but I'm sorry. I don't think we're ready in this Trinidad and Tobago for us to relinquish ties with the Privy Council. My matter went to the Privy Council, and I was glad, because at the end of the day, the defendants, the appellants, could not come and say that, as they tried to do in the High Court matter, that the judge in that matter, and in the appeal, that they wanted to imply that there was bias on his part. And they actually put that in their pleadings, and they had to let it go. When you go to the Privy Council, don't come with that nonsense with them. They're not interested in all that nonsense. And when you get a judgment from the Privy Council, every man shut up, because they don't have an agenda, no matter. Generally, they have no agenda, and they're going to tell it like it is. And A.V. Bash, I'm pretty confident, and Deborah Peake must have known. She's a brilliant young woman. She's very brilliant. I'm pretty certain that if that went to the Privy Council, they would have ruled against A.V.
Well, we have a caller on the line with us from Digger Martin. Good morning, caller.
Hi, morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Now, given this lawsuit, right, I think now we should pay more attention to maybe completing the new prison on that side just after Tiaco roundabout there, or what used to be Tiaco turnoff, actually, back one thing. Because what this will do now is open the doors for more lawsuits against the state for inhumane conditions. So let's look at that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Thank you very much, caller. It is a very good point, actually.
Yeah, new facilities would help.
A sad but good point.
But the thing is, though, new facilities would help, but we have an issue with maintenance in this country, right? So my thing, too, is it also has to come with a change of how they do things, better administration and management of the system. Otherwise, we'll be back where it was in about 5 years.
How about reducing the crime level?
Well, that's
what I did. How about reducing the crime level? Maybe you don't need to have that prison.
But
how about that?
On top of all that, yes, that's the root of it. But you have to now wonder how many of those who are accused and been in remand, or how many of the former accused or the acquitted will, let me not make bones about it, will take inspiration from this case, and they themselves will want to take action.
But, and you know what? If the system is so bad that people could take advantage of it like that, if it forces corrections, fine. I'll
not take advantage. You've never spent a day inside a prison. And by the way, in America, if I could make unless you have a call coming in.
Yes, we do have a call.
It's big business in
Yes,
America.
it is. Yes, it is.
The explosion of prisons because it became big business. Who is making the meals, the uniforms, transporting the prisoners? Somebody's making money.
We have a call. Lila, I think this might be the last call. No, we have some time, but caller from Digger Martin. Caller, don't listen to the TV. Caller.
All right. We'll have to cut that call. All right, caller from Digger Martin, we apologize. I'm kindly reminding all callers when they are calling in to make their contribution, please mute your television. Now, if your television was muted and we're hearing that background noise, there may be an issue with the phone line. So if possible, please try another line. But, Karen, you were making a point?
Yeah.
No, I was saying that if you look at America, they said when they started to make say no to drugs. There's a whole history. We can't go into all of that now. But what it did say that America, when compared to all countries in the world, Europe and so on, America on a racial level has one of the highest levels of incarceration in the world. And they said it was a big business. People were making money building prisons because somebody has to feed the prisoners. So somebody's getting a contract with the prisons. Yes. And somebody's getting a contract to construct the prison. Somebody's getting a contract to transport the prisoners. Somebody's getting a contract to provide the whatever clothes the prisoners have to wear. So in America, it's a proven fact.
Well, Karen,
it is said that it is big business in America.
We do have that caller on the line with us from Digger Martin. Good morning, caller. Hello, good morning. All right. It seems as though it may actually be an issue with the phone. We do apologize. We have about 3 to 4 minutes, folks. for calls once more. So if you'd like to call and make a contribution, please do so now.
Okay, now bigger picture. We do have to consider, yes, the criminal justice system that has issues. What happened in this case, of course, is at the forefront, the immediate concern. Why was the lack of any action on two occasions happen? But I'm going to go back. You said it again, because the gift that keeps on giving. The current administration, they've put out legislation by I can't even remember the names. The minority special
majority.
Special majority, right? Now I do have to ask, because we've seen other instances like when they tried to put in legislation so Gary could act, ironically, before they tried to get him off of the list. And that was struck down for all intents and purposes. The public health regulations, we had issues with that and how it was written, and so that it was somewhat unenforceable. I now have questions with regards to legislation out of the AG's office. So if he would have been the principal office where that would have written some of the government's legislation that they passed, are we going to have any hidden trapdoors to just come back, in a few years to bite us in where unexpectedly?
Right. Well, I'm just curious. We have to go to this call, but I'm curious to know, what was Faris Arawi's law practice like before he became an Attorney General? Call on with us from Diego Martin.
Yes, I just responding to your statement there. We cannot rehabilitate people under those present conditions, right? That is one. And then when you take your friend and you put them in office to handle a particular portfolio and they're not capable, we must lead to these kind of things.
Yeah.
Later.
Thank you, caller.
Have a good one.
We've had a couple episodes on site with a former prisoner, and he refrains from seeing it in graphic detail, and it still sounds graphic, and it still sounds horrible.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for phone calls this morning. Thank you very much for your contributions. We'll have to close it off for now. But we're looking forward to that press conference later.
Yes, we are. I'm sure Karen is waiting with bated breath because the curiosity is just what could they say? We don't know. This is. I am surprised it got so bad. I know things are bad.
Don't worry, they're going to deflect.
But
they're going to talk about the police. They're going to talk about the police. The police didn't do the job properly. And if they had done the job properly, these men would not have been incarcerated, and so on and so on. But as Keaton has said, keep it separate. Don't let them take you down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Don't let them take you down the rabbit hole. Let them answer, the AG answer his question, not the DPP.
Well, that's the next thing. Who should be answering? Because the first instance was under a different AG. So should we be expecting of the Minister of Local Government to lead off the press conference and explain his piece of the pie? Because it'll be very funny if the current AG...
I think they think that's better not to do
that. Well, the current AG... Well, the current AG deflects to the previous AG, because to be fair to Mr. Moore, to some extent he could do that.
No, not for the assessment of damages.
That is true. That is true.
Not for not appealing.
That is true. But he could say, if somebody before me didn't mess it up the first time, I won't have to worry about the second time.
Well, he following the playbook now.
Playbook. I apologize, but sorry. No, it's not that. It's just that now I am curious to know what Faris Arawi is going to be like as a Minister of Local Government, at least this year, with local government elections coming up at the end of the year.
Okay, so first of all, he is piloting the reform. That's a piece of legislation. To what extent?
Sean, at what point in time has he gotten legislation correct? You want him to pilot reform?
Listen. That's what I just asked. Do we have any things that will come back and surprise us, hidden away in stuff that he's piloted before?
Gentlemen, I have to tell you this. You have to look at that legislation, because if you're living, and we can do it another time, but you see all those people who are all the businessmen in Port of Spain and San Fernando, who used to have to pay what they call house rates. House rates applied to their businesses, which is a lot of businesses in town. And you look at that new local government thing, it talks about property tax, and the only tax you pay, regardless of where, under that new local government election, where you're devolving lots of power to the councillors, which is not a bad thing. A lot of it is not a bad thing. Is they don't pay. They're going to be paying property tax on residential. I want to know how many residents they have on Frederick Street, Duke Street, going down those streets. So before they used to have to pay the taxes on those are called house rates, but it was next to nothing because just last point, the last time they did a valuation, of those properties in Port of Spain was in 1975. So there you go.
Now, outside of that, maybe he would be a decent minister. But when it comes to legal matters, he has what I would consider to be in the public space, somewhat of a proven track record.
But Sean, you didn't just hear what I told you about what will happen with that legislation?
Yes.
That all of those businesses that now are supposed to be paying, if they do the new valuation, which is what valuation of properties for commercial properties, they would now have to be paying a huge amount of taxes because it used to be called house rates under the municipal corporation legislation. Now, under the local government, only property that is subject to tax is residential at this point in time. Well, my understanding. So all of those businesses not paying any tax.
Well, Karen, as much as I'd like to go into this, we're out of time. We're out of time. Thank you very much for raising that. So it is something that Sean and I will have to examine further. But
elections coming up.
Yes, very much so. Very important. Karen, thank you very much for your presence this morning, for your time, and once more for imparting your knowledge with us.
You're welcome. You have a good day.
You too, Karen.
Bye-bye.
Sean Michael Small.
I mean, this is just, again, if our systems aren't working properly, we'll end up with results like this. And this, you could argue, is a severe consequence as well. People being incarcerated. It's something that we've heard before, but maybe we take it for granted just how bad this situation is for the experience of the men that have to live through it. And then we want to know, well, as the caller said, why they're not rehabilitated, why they have to keep being criminals. Well, when you're traumatized like that,
Sean, do not deflect, please. You're going down the deflection or you're going down that rabbit hole, you know.
I'm not deflecting. I am not deflecting.
Anyway, as I close and I conclude talking point, I just want to welcome to the WSN family Miss Leah Ann Jones, the new host for AM Prime. Welcome. We wish you all the best, and we look forward to working with you, working alongside you as you pilot each day here at WESN from 6 a.m. on, well, obviously 6 a.m. is in the morning. So, Leah Ann Jones, welcome, and we look forward to it. Excellent work this morning, by the way. But, folks, I will conclude by simply wishing you all the very best. You can look forward for more Talking Point later on tonight. And, well, if things go well, Sean and I will see you tomorrow morning. Just remember, today is a good day to have a good day. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Make sure you get tickets early, got them tickets selling already. We have icons, yes, we have legends, and the young upcoming sensations. Become party, social commentary. We have something for everybody. Pressure for them, joker, faker, and lows. Come to Kaiso House.
Kaiso House in the Barricade, Queen's Park, Savannah, January 27th to February 17th, 2023. Tickets available at
Kaiso House in the Savannah, Crosby's Music Center, St. James, Cambodia Restaurant, San Fernando, Ursa Complex, Grand Bazaar, and Tuco Main Office, Jerningham Avenue, Belmont. Meet me in the Barricade.
QRC Fete Royale. We home!
On Saturday, 4th February, from 6 p.m. to 1 a.m.
We present our honorary Royalians. Voice and the top 5 band.
Cass, the band.
Patrice Roberts.
Ricardo True and the 18 band.
Nadia Batson.
And Rafi B.
First edition tickets on sale now at the QRC box office.
Bagalito Enterprises.
Online tickets available at ticketfederation.com.
And suntix.com. On Friday, February 3rd, at the Central Bank Auditorium, it's Light Up the Night, Volume 3, a veteran Calypso showpiece. Come, enjoy a night of stars to light up your night with Tobago Crusoe, D. Alberto, Chogdus, Ray Holman, Leston Paul, Short Pants, The Bagman, and Alexander the Great. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. at the Central Bank Auditorium. Tickets cost $250. Get your tickets now at Crosby St. James. Mesa Limited at 628-5092 or 628-5094 and at the Central Bank box office on February 2nd only. Call for reservations at 621-2288, extension 6345. Don't miss this veteran Calypso showpiece, Light Up the Night, Volume 3, Friday, February 3rd.
Sing for your lover, baby, sing for your lover.
But that is not the song.
That is my version for the Valentine's Day promo on WESN.
WESN presents its Valentine's Day promotion, Sing for Your Lover.
Send us a video of the best rendition of your favorite love song for the one you love. All contestants have a chance to win a variety of exciting prizes. Send us your entries to thecontentcapital@gmail.com. All videos will be posted to our social media pages and will be shown on WESN.
Well, okay then. Let me sing for my lover. Let me sing for my lover.
My lover.
I'm Andre Elbertis, and you're watching WESN, the Content Capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
I'm Keaton Shaw, and we are WESN, the Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the Content Capital.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokaram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
I'm Andy Johnson, and you're watching WESN, the Content Capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
The conversation continues.